Hi, this is Corey Michaels, and welcome to another episode of Frog Talk, your leap into fundraising. And today I've been excited about this one because I get to introduce you to someone you probably already know, but if you don't, you need to know. One of my favorite people on the planet, the entire family from the Baker Auction Company, Tyson Baker, and along with G, who is always along with Tyson. How are you doing, brother?
Corey, it is so good to see you, and I'm happy to be here for sure. As you always know, it's a good time when we get together.
Hey, you know what? It always is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we've got some good history together, and have had a lot of fun and raised a lot of money for a lot of nonprofits, and that's what we're here for. And together we've done some special things. But Baker Auction Company, if you haven't seen them before, experienced what they bring to a gala or to a fundraising event, man, I tell you what, they are the best. And collectively, I love each and every one of them. And so when we first started hanging out and doing things, I didn't know a lot of the history, and I found that out through the course of us working together and becoming friends and, extension of family. And so I think it's something, even if you've seen and you know how exciting and dynamic they can be, but you need to go back, and let's go back some generations here, and let's start at the starting of Baker Auction Company and how it all started and the evolution.
Yeah, it's come a long ways. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It started with our grandfather about 60 plus years ago, somewhere between 60 and 65 years ago, where he decided he wanted to become an auctioneer.
Right.
And he went off to auctioneer school and came back. And
now, did he just wake up one day and go, I'm going to talk fast and make money?
Grandpa was always doing all sorts of endeavors.
Okay.
And he'd always been into all sorts of things in around the business. Back then it was cattle and equipment and so forth. So he'd always been around the business and knew that, something, what he was doing. He was into horse racing, and he crossed the board. and people wonder why I'm across the board with everything too. I know exactly where I got it from.
Yeah,
right?
It's dyed in the wool.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So he decided he's going to be an auctioneer, and to be an auctioneer, it takes a certain personality. Now, again, I always talk about, we're in our own lane, so I don't ever have to talk bad or talk different about competitors or other auctioneers, and I don't. But to me, to be a great auctioneer, it takes a certain type of personality, a certain type of character, and that's what Grandpa had. And so he started, and down the road we went, and he had a couple of, he had my dad and an uncle, and my dad decided that about the age of 14 that he's going to follow in the family business, and he went off to auctioneer school, and as soon as he graduated high school, he just went right into business with Grandpa, and they've been doing auctions, at that point in time ever since. A lot of farm sales, estate sales, they're doing real estate sales. They'd always given back to the community, Corey. So it's funny where I know we're going to come full circle into the charity side of this thing and into the benefit and the foundation side, but they'd always done for the Treasure Valley and around the area benefit auctions for the kids. We got a hashtag line we use all the time, and I know a lot of people that use it, but we really use it when we say it's for the kids because they've been doing it a long time. FFA, 4-H sales, what is the one for the burn victims that we've done for I don't know 50 plus years. I'm trying to remember. Shriners.
Yes.
For the children's burn victims over there. A lot of so many church events. I mean, we had done these events for so long. It's just something we did. And when the boys were born, me and my two other brothers, we just grew up in the auction business. Every weekend there was auctions, and you just went and you helped because, and believe me when I say this, there was never a handout by Grandpa or Dad. All right, there's no such thing as a handout. And in this business, again, I don't. To each is their own, and how they establish their businesses in life from hand down to generations. An auction business, you can't just hand it down because again, you can't just be like, here you go, you're going to be an auctioneer, because first of all, you got to have the want, the desire.
Yes.
Then you got to know how, and all of us boys, wanted to do it, but again, we just grew up in it, and if you went and worked out there 8 hours at a farm sale. Grandpa gave you a $20 check. That was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Big deal. All right. I mean, you want to get paid by Grandpa because Dad just said that's just part of the learning. Okay. you wanted to.
You should be paying us for what you're learning right now.
Absolutely. And so every auction or every weekend there was an auction, and we talk about foundation and charity events now that now that we know a lot about how they work, and having somewhere between, depending upon the event, 6 to 12 live auction items is very keen. Back then, we would go do these events, and we'd showed up at a church auction, and we might sell 200 to 300 items.
Cakes and cupcakes and
donated stuff from all town.
Yeah,
and it,
quilts
and 3 hours. So, again, and I worked in all sorts of auctions where we've done auto auctions and cattle sales, and again, when we do the 4-H and FFA sales, well, I've sold for 4 or 5 hours straight.
Yeah, voice getting ready to just go.
And so now we come full circle to where we're at now, to be, we'll talk about it later, but being able to be dynamic for 6 to 12 auction items is, in our eyes, all of ours across the board, is nothing, because when we grew up, and this is what we did,
right.
Yep, we're going to that auction. It's going to be an all-day deal, and it's and you donated your time 100% back then, and so that's really where this has started. It went down the trail, and now, I had other businesses and things going on, and other avenues. I was always chasing. Auctioneering was something I have always loved. It is by far and away my favorite thing to do out of everything I do. There's something about being passionate about what you do, but being able to care and take care of so many. We get to help so many different people in so many walks of life that it's hard to explain that feeling, to be able to help such a diverse group of people, or kids, or people with special needs, or whether you're fighting disease. You just feel like you're doing your part,
right?
And then, of course, you get to do it as a career. There's no better feeling.
No, there's not. And I've always said, and Tyson and I have talked about this many times, my 35 years in radio until I retired, that was the part that filled my cup, was being able to go out and to help out with nonprofits, whether it was a radiothon, whether it was a gala, whatever that happened to be. Planting my butt on the roof of Krispy Kreme for 4 or 5 days, raising money for Special Olympics, to living on a billboard to raise money for the Children's Miracle Network. It made everything I did make sense and put everything into perspective. And the radio was fun, but the giving and the being able to give back, that's the part that mattered. And that's the difference between, Baker Auction Company, and again, not to put down any other auctioneers. I work with several, and they're all good, and they have good hearts. But that's the thing. You have to have the heart and the passion and the desire to give back. And the fact that you're making some money along the way and able to pay your bills, it makes for the perfect scenario. And that's what Baker Auction Company has always lived on, was that giving heart to give back to the community. Because if you go with passion, the money will follow. But you have to start with the passion and the desire to do good.
There's no doubt about that, Corey. And again, I look at it from a perspective of the audience, the people that are showing up to these events.
Yes.
I look at it from their perspective of, how would I receive it if I was them?
Mm-hmm.
And do I receive it as somebody up there begging me for money, or do I receive it as somebody who's up there who knows the foundation, who's speaking the message, who's talking about the mission, and who makes me want to be inspired to give?
Right.
That is what the difference was. And so I take this journey about, let me go back about 12, 13 years ago. We'd done all sorts of events, right? We've done everything from, National Rifle Association to Pheasants Forever to Ducks Unlimited to, just so many that were just little tiny, and I say little tiny gigs, but it all mattered. They're all raising money for a cause. And I remember going to my first gala.
Mm-hmm.
I got invited, and it was at the Boise Center on the Grove downtown. 5, 6, 7, 800 people, and it's almost like I was oblivious to this. I didn't know this is even happening. And I saw an auctioneer and a team of people putting on this event.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my world, where I'm very competitive and I'm very much like
you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Me, and that's a shocker. I watched this event in just awe. Was like, wait a second. It's almost like the light bulb came on. first of all, I go, we can do this, and we can do this 10x better than this.
Right.
And the energy that I felt in that room, like I was so excited to go, okay, let's go figure out how to do this. Meanwhile, dad's old school. Grandpa ends up retiring from the business, and dad, he's always going to do what he knew, which was, the farm sale side of things and estate sale side of things. And he continued on. And I said, Dad, if I'm not busy with my other things, the boys need an opportunity, give them more of an opportunity on the farm sale side, then we'll all come together on this charity side. But I'm going to go work on this for a while. I see a vision over here.
And what did he say to you first when you came to him with that?
Well, he was worried in the beginning because, he was just like, well, you're not going to leave me hanging dry, are you? You're not just going to leave me out here. If I need you, I was like, Dad, I'm not going to leave you hanging dry. I'm just telling you that, I won't be able to. He already knew that from the businesses I had going that, me being able to go out and take pictures and set up these auctions or what. I mean, I showed up for sale day. And that's what I did. And, I went and sold my stuff for him. And I was always going to do that. But I said my role in that is going to be less and less, especially over here. But I said we're going to be able to bring this full circle, full circumference to where something about us leaving a legacy, like you said, to me is important that when you talk about auctions, I want everyone to think about Baker Auction. I don't care if it's across the board. I mean, for me, more importantly, it's a benefit side, but just across the board in auctions because we've been there for so long.
Right.
That's important to me. Legacy is important.
Absolutely. Of course it is. And now, as obviously, things have gone pretty well with that vision you had 12, 13 years ago. And talk about the evolution of that part of it.
Well, it's funny. When I tell people I've been auctioneering for over 20 years, okay? Because people look at me, if I shave my beard,
You look 12. Yeah. He does. Yeah. He does.
And so when people see me, when I tell them that, it's almost like they drop their jaw because Grandpa was teaching me how to auctioneer, and I was the one that didn't go to auctioneer school. But when you're around it so much, and Grandpa was teaching me in the shop.
Life school. Yes. That was it.
The school of hard knocks, and trust me, I think I was learning more, and it was more imprinted on me there than if I would have went to an auctioneer school for it. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to surprise my dad one day, and so Dad didn't know I was practicing with Grandpa. And so one day we were at a farm sale, and Grandpa pretended he started coughing, and he says, "Hey Ty," he used to call me Ty. "Hey Ty, hold this microphone for me real quick." And he had to get his handkerchief out and sneeze and whatever. And so one of our guys, our ring guys, were in on the trick. And I said, "Bobby, hold up them wrenches right there. Somebody get 25 and go. Get 25, get up to 30." And I just started selling. And my dad's look on his face was like, "What in the hell?" And I sold the hell out of those wrenches. And then since I sold the wrenches so well, Papa just kind of smacked me on the ass. I was like, "Hey, why don't you keep selling these, the screwdriver, and from there, boy, that might have been a big mistake because then they put me to work." And I mean,
who was the joke really on at that point?
Oh my gosh, when we did the consignment sales, I'm not kidding. I sold for 8 hours straight. I sold the quote unquote the junk line in the back, all the small items. Oh, that was me. That had Tyson's name written all over it for years.
Yeah,
for years. So that's funny with how that how that came full circle to that. So nowadays, like I said, when we sit down and we talk with these nonprofits, how we can say that, look, the experience our team has for just years of being in the auction business is in the hundreds. I mean, I always joke about Chris being 100 years old.
At least, isn't it?
I always joke about that. But, he was a big part in our help on the benefit side because he was he wasn't necessarily with us with Baker Auction. He knew our grandpa. He knew us. He was kind of an independent auctioneer, and he'd bounced around helping a lot of these other auctioneers and did some auctions for him and was rigging for him. And, I learned a lot because he would go to those national conventions and he would go to these things. And I learned a lot when we first stepped in to do these events from Chris. And it was, and then take that from what we knew on the auction side. I always say we don't know everything because we don't. But man, there's so much to learn. There's so much to sponge and soak in, and we are about that. We are about that. So when I show up to your event, Corey, I can give you all the tools laid out, and you just select what you want to use.
Right.
And then we tell you why it works or why it doesn't work and why we've seen it work. Because at the end of the day, our goal that night is to raise you as much money as possible.
Right. Here's the thing with any of the auctions, any of the galas that we've done together, And the way I always have felt about this, and I know Tyson does as well, we're exactly that. We're there to make sure that you raise as much money as possible, because whatever the cause happens to be, four-legged, two-legged, kids, senior citizens, whatever it happens to be, that is the star of that event. We're not the star of the event. My goal is to go in there and keep things moving along and tee it up for the Baker auction, and Tyson to be able to come in there and do what they do. And at the end of the day, that's all any of us care about. How much money did we raise for the cause? Did we do good? And then what could we do better next time? And it's always that feeling of how can we do it even better the next time?
We always say we shoot to do a perfect event every time. And of the tens of thousands we've done, we've never done one.
No.
We've came close lots. In my opinion, we've came close lots. But we've never done one perfect, because we're very, very, when you put so much pressure on yourself, and I always say, and I love this quote, pressure is a privilege. I love it. I love to feel like it's all on us. Not as many people showed up, or this big table's not here, or the crowd is really low tonight. I feel that pressure, and I love every second of it. But like you said, we are a piece of that puzzle for the night. And so we just need to make sure that we're doing our part and that we fit in there perfectly. I mean, You nailed it for yourself. You're just as big as a piece of the pie for us prior to the event, before us getting in there, because again, having a great MC that can help control the room and send them in the direction they need to go, getting us teed up to go, is very important. It's very important.
It is.
People don't understand, but man, an event is all about flow. And
yes, 100%.
When you take the air out of the room, sometimes it is hard to get that air back in the room.
Sometimes almost dang near impossible.
I've seen other events where we weren't a part of, but when the air's out of the room, I mean, it makes everyone's job is tough.
Yeah. And I've had the ones where, I've had to just work my little tail off to try and get the energy back to be able to tee it up for the auctioneers. And man, sometimes is tougher than others. Yeah. But if the proper planning, the proper pieces of the puzzle in place, and that is rare that you allow that to happen. Usually that'll happen because, you had someone out of the audience that had a couple of too many drinks that want to come up there and get on the mic and very passionately slur their way through talking about how much they love everything. And, oh my God, everyone in the audience is like, now, if I don't grab a vaudeville hook or go up there and politely snag that microphone, energy gone. And I don't want to do that to the auctioneers, to Tyson, to the boys, to the audience. I don't want to do any of that. So, it takes all of us together to make that happen. But when it does, which is more than not, it's magical as the night goes along.
And you nailed it, too. I mean, we've got to the point now where when I talk about how important my team is, all right? I mean, Dad's been auctioneering for 40 plus years. Chris in the same boat. My brothers, they've grown up in this industry. And Tommy, a third generation auctioneer, and Brady, who's one of the he just got a brain like you wouldn't believe. But when we get the group together, I call it the A team. Not to we hire out a lot of guys because sometimes our schedules, we have 5 auctions in a night, right? And so there
was one I remember. There was like 8.
Yeah. So
going that one night.
We have to be able to hire out, and I am very particular on who comes on my team. Very particular. I just don't hire any Joe Blow off the street who says they're an auctioneer or a ringman. But when we have our A team there, it's so hard to explain our value of what we do together because everyone is on the same page and we know what we're supposed to do. We know exactly where everyone's at. They know what I'm going through on stage. If there's an awkward moment, it won't look awkward to anybody else. They'll know. They'll know what's going on. You'll know what's going on, but our job is not to show that anything ever is going bad or wrong or something. But that value of that team is so important. I get it. When we go sit down these foundations, like, well, we've got spotters that help us every year. And I, got to politely be like, that's great.
That's awesome.
But your spotters are probably costing you money. And so here's why we're going to bring these guys in because they're professional at this.
They know what to look for. They know what to help with.
I always tell people, do you want the gal at the front desk of the dentist's office to do your cavity and to clean your teeth? Do you want her to do it? Well, because she works at the dentist's office. I mean, she should know, right?
Right.
And people, when I give that analogy, people are like, "Oh, I guess that makes sense." You kind of want the professionals to do that. It's the same concept.
Now, real quick, because before we get too far away from this, because we've talked a lot about Chris here, but what we failed to mention, Chris is also in the Hall of Fame of auctioneers.
Yeah.
I mean, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's how much that man and this family has done, and I'm always in awe. And it's all. Here's the thing, because I've been in the other side. When we talk about a team, I can do everything as perfectly as possible at that moment, that evening, as an MC. And if I've got a bad auctioneer, there's nothing I can do about that, because once I release that microphone, that power, whatever, then it's on them. Yeah, I might be up there reading items and kind of helping out, but it's their energy, it's their experience that are going to make the difference. And there's been a few over the years that I've dreaded when I found out who their auctioneer was. Not because they're bad people or whatever, they're not all created equal. I'm sorry, it's a fact. Not all MCs are created equal, not all auctioneers are created equal. And so whenever at first, when I first started, I can remember the very first event that I did with Baker Auction Company. And I was like, okay, I don't know these boys, but all right, let's let her rip. And we went through it, and I got done, and I was exhausted. And I say this in the most beautiful way, because everything was left on that stage. There was no bit of any of us that we could have gone, man, we could have gotten back up and given more to this or to that. And so every time after that, and that was before we became, friends and family over the years. And so every time after that, I always either recommended, if they didn't have someone, Baker Auction Company, but if I found out Tyson or Sam or Chris or whoever was going to be up there, I knew it was going to be a great event. I didn't have to worry. And so everyone needs to trust and to know the other people that are involved, the other pieces of that puzzle are going to give every bit as much as you do. And I always know that with Baker Auction Company, and that's one of the greatest compliments that I can give anyone.
And Corey, I can't say thank you enough. I mean, I feel the same way about MCs, and I say that you're one of the best that we work with, because we can tell each other, on the fly or in our pre-meetings, hey, Corey, this is going to be when I'm going to need you to amp up more on this. And you know that I'm telling you that in a way of setting it up for me, and vice versa. You might say, Tyson, I'm going to need an extra 10 minutes here to do this. And I know that you're telling me stuff that you need, which is on the professional side. We know that, again, everything we're adding to this is all ingredients to the main dish at the end. So it's okay.
Yep.
But I also think you nailed it. We are going to leave it on the table every time. When I get done, I don't want there to be any dollars left in that room, but it also comes from pre-planning. Pre-planning is so important to this. Do we have to make adjustments on the fly? Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
But the pre-planning that we put into these events, I know groups that hire auctioneers and MCs, and they say, hey, our auction's in 6 months. And they go, auctioneers, MCs say, cool, we'll see you there. What night? 7 o'clock, we'll be here at 6. And they don't hear from them again.
Right.
In my opinion, again, I hate to teach what I consider people in the other lanes. I'm not going to be teaching much here, but hey, you do that, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing, because we're going to prep everything from start to finish, because, again, we want it to succeed, and it succeeds from so many things, not just the performance of that night.
And if you're in the room, if you're part of that gala, you won't know all the little things that went into, and you're not supposed to. You don't need to know that. You just need to know what's happening there and get your purses and your wallets ready. And let's have some fun.
There's so much, Corey. You and I've sat in all these meetings. I mean, when I say hours and hours and hours of prep, because I know how hard it is for an executive chair or the person who's in charge. I know how much pressure he or she's under, which is a lot to get these events. And our job is to take some of that pressure off and be like, hey, whether you've done, 15 of these events, whether this is your first year, let us help you with our knowledge of, not only just the room or if we know the people. That's to me, that's irrelevant. It is how an event should go.
Period. All right, buddy. Let's zoom ahead or behind to an extent now, thankfully, to 2020.
Oh boy.
And I will tell you, let's see. Together, now not our other events that we weren't together for, but just the ones that we were together was a lot coming up for 2020. I mean, that schedule was booming. And then all of a sudden comes March of 2020. Dun, dun, dun. And Tyson and I are calling each other going, yep, this group is canceling. This group is postponing. This group, and so everyone was in this weird place. And for nonprofits, God bless you for everything that you did to try and hang on and to adapt and to evolve. But it was a tough year. It was a tough year on everyone, and especially nonprofits. And so how did you react? What were you thinking? I know you and I talked, so I know a lot of what you were thinking, but what was your first steps to go, okay, what do we do now?
Oh, yeah, dun, dun, dun is right. You nailed it. The calendar was jam-packed. The calendar was, we were ready to do it. And, it all came crashing down. And the night we had our last live event for a long time in 2020, because we ended up doing some later based upon some restrictions in other counties. We got some in the fall, a couple. But we actually had 4 events that were supposed to happen on this specific night. And the governor here had said, hey, it's going from 150 people to 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this particular event said, we've booked it, we've done it, we're doing it. And so we got there and we did the event, and there was a record for them, and then we just kind of walked out from that event and was like, well, now what?
Now what? Yep.
We are very fortunate to make a big splash with some people nationwide, because not only did we just like to own our backyard here in the Idaho region, but we've done lots of events across the nation, and we were fortunate enough to partner up with some people who got a hold of us and said, hey, we're out of business too, temporarily. And like everybody else, there's a lot of people who are out of business and a lot of unknowns. Yeah. A lot of people standing there, what now?
Uh-huh.
Yep. And so just like everybody else, there was no manual for this. There was no script.
Oh, no.
And so I think that's where people like you and I, who are up on stage, who have to improv a lot, we go, okay, well, we can't, dead air is bad air. Right? Dead air is bad air. There's a lot of dead air right here. We got to do something. We were able to transition into helping be one of the major pioneers in the virtual space.
Yeah.
Much like you guys did here with Auction Frogs, there was 2 different approaches to it, which again, in my opinion, there was 2 different ways you could do it, which are the exact 2 ways that we did it. You can do it the style that you did, which was, you sit down, you tell the story, and then you ask for the donations at the end, and you guys performed those beautifully.
Well, thank you.
You did. I watched many of them, because I was a student during this virtual time. Yep. I was watching anything and everybody out there.
Me too.
But
good and bad.
Yeah. Oh, lots of bad. I'm going to be honest.
Lots of bad.
Let's be honest. Terrible. And you feel bad for those
them.
Foundations, because you're just like, I know they're trying.
Right.
I know they're trying. And if we could have just got to them and gave them some structure, some skeleton, here's what we have. Can we help you? So you guys were doing your style. I couldn't do the Corey Michael style, as you know. We
each know our lanes, and we love our lanes.
Yeah, and so I was like, I got to be able to still do these live auctions. I still got to be able to entertain the people. I still got to be able to bring this, and we were able to piece together our version of it. And once we started a few of these events, it was like dominoes. The ones that said, "Hey, we're still going to figure out a way to make money. We want to do it virtually." Well, they didn't have to pass like a lot of them did, and decided just to pass. Here's some questions or some things that people are bringing up. Like, were people still donating in 2020?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I feel terrible for the people who lost their jobs. And I do. I wish I could. If I could give everybody everything in this world, I would give everybody everything in this world.
Right. Same here.
But on the foundation side, there was a couple of businesses. Yes, I feel bad for the bar industry and some of the restaurants at some certain times.
Yeah.
They really took an unnecessary knock. But for the most part, across the board, businesses businesses are the ones that support these nonprofits were making a fortune. A lot of them did very, very, very well. Mm-hmm. And so they had more money than ever because they weren't out doing anything and spending it because everything was shut down. Mm-hmm. So these virtual events were phenomenal. And these events were making more money than they expected, which was great. Mm-hmm. It felt good.
Yes, it did.
And not only that, but for you too, Corey, it just gave us another tool to add to our belt. Mm-hmm. Because as we get excited, like everyone else is, to get back to live, what is going to happen is that some people are going to stick to virtual. They go, hey, we're just not quite big enough, and it didn't make sense for us to spend all that money on the food and the renting of the spot and everything else, where we can raise just as much, if not more, and be able to do it differently for people hosting parties at home. We're good with this.
Yeah.
And we can still do that for them. Uh-huh. But man, the ones that are coming up live, there might be some opportunity to do some hybrids. Right?
Yes.
Hybrids are going to be a thing coming up. It doesn't work for all events.
No.